English, but they will remember that song because they decided to do it and they looked it up. They'll remember it more, they'll remember the lyrics. You can actually see students making faster progress if they are taking the learning in hand, learning by themselves. And of course, learning by doing gives you the freedom to make mistakes. That might be embarrassing in the classroom, but outside the classroom it doesn't matter. It's part of the experimental process of finding things out, seeing what works. And if students, of course, decide all the time to find out what they want for their own goal. This is not true in many traditional, highly syllabus-bound classrooms. And of course, as they experiment and find their own way, the motivation is there to keep trying. So our students are doing this all the time anyway. And a lot of students, teachers tell me on my travels, that a lot of students say there is a marked contrast between how they learn outside school and how they learn in school. We need to talk about the digital age. I don't know how many of you are digital natives. Have you heard that expression? And I will give you a rough way to classify yourself. If you're born after 1980, I would consider you to be a digital native, because that was the year I was able to buy my first personal computer, a long time ago. I, of course, was born long before 1980, so I'm a digital immigrant. So how many people, can you press your tick box, how many people are digital natives? Let's have a look. Can you press your tick box if you were born after 1980? Oh, quite a lot. And how many of us in the audience today are digital immigrants? Again, press your tick box. I think we're a mixture, but it looks, I'm just looking very quickly, there are fewer digital immigrants indicated anyway than natives. So in the digital age, we need to think about our students are all digital natives and they have grown up with technology just as part of the wallpaper, part of the background. And the digital age has influenced the way our students think and behave and the things they expect in classrooms. After all, if you're going to teach ABC today, maybe you should try it like this. Okay, I kind of like this. Not entirely serious, of course, but I wanted to illustrate that students think more digitally than perhaps digital immigrants do. Okay, the next thing I want to look at is to get at the mindset of our students. This is quite an interesting collection. I'll give you the source at the end. And have a look at the attributes of students today. So computers are not technology, they are a given. They're not fancy, special, but they are supposed to be everywhere and they expect to see them in school. Of course, I mentioned funding and room and equipment before, but when it comes to computers, students know how to make them work. And if you're a digital immigrant, you know that your students will help you if you can't figure it out. They don't need instructions, they learn by doing. They click on something to see how it works. If it doesn't work, they'll try something else. And that's the way I think we've all learned to use basic software, in fact. The internet appears to be the only place where their information is valued. So many of our students believe everything is there and it's free. So students, younger people today are not willing to pay for things on the internet unless it has very high value. So the internet rules. The third one's quite interesting. You have to develop strong evaluation skills in your students in order for them to understand the nature of reality through the digital age. You never really know who's sending you an email if that person is not already somebody you know. And of course, Photoshop can manipulate any image you like. So there is something about reality. Here are three more. Some of these you might relate to your classroom. Doing is more important than learning. Maybe the word learning should be in inverted commas, because in my opinion learning is doing, or doing is learning. But as we mentioned before, when they leave school, it'll be a complex world. Traditionally, school was about remembering a lot of knowledge, knowing a lot of facts. That is no longer true. If you want facts, you can find them on Google. What's going to be valued more are the students' skills. Okay, number 5, Nintendo over logic. So instead of logical, rational approaches to things, this is about gaming. So if any of your students play Nintendo games or games online, in order to learn how to play the game well, they have to go through a trial and error approach to solving problems. Now this is really interesting because I think language learning is solving problems too, and trial and error is something that learners can do on their own and learn quite powerfully. Here's a nice point, number 6. Typing rather than handwriting. Here's a question. How much do you get your students to handwrite? I mean, I don't handwrite now much at all, apart from making a few notes. I type all the time, and our students naturally want to type. Handwriting can be a problem. So how do you do tests? How do you do exams? A lot of exams still require handwritten answers, unless, of course, you have an online facility for submitting written work where typing is more natural to students, I think. And finally, our students are multitaskers. You know that they can have music on while they're doing homework, and they can be eating a sandwich and possibly take a phone call quite easily. They do tend to do a lot of things in short bursts. Excuse me. Staying connected is part of the information age mindset, connected through social networking sites, through text messaging, through mobile phones, and so on. And finally, a couple of other points. Students, you might have noticed, are very impatient. They don't have much tolerance at all for being kept waiting, which is why in classrooms, I think, if you look at the photograph, get students working on something together in groups rather than have them answer questions in turn around the class, where the last one is waiting for the others to finish first. I think keep students busy, because we know their tolerance for waiting is even less today. And finally, a cut and paste world. I think that's quite nicely put. Who created this document? Was it your student with Wikipedia? Was it Wikipedia cut and paste all on its own? And I think, especially if you're university teachers, you need to help students cite their sources, give thanks to their inspiration, and so on. So there's quite a lot there, but I thought that was a nice summary of the way our students think today. Okay, so what does it mean? Students expect technology, it's a given. Students are now more autonomous because they do a lot of searching for information all by themselves anyway, every day. And this quote from a blog I found I thought was kind of nice. Young people in particular are becoming increasingly allergic to paper-based educational formats. They like interactivity, they like social networking features. So I think this really needs to be compared with the kind of thing that we're delivering in classrooms today. And of course, I know a lot of you probably have quite a good mix of technology, digital resources, as well as more traditional. So let's look at the idea of how you might mix everything up. If you're a state school teacher, there's not a lot you can do sometimes, but who knows? The idea of blended learning is to get a mix of inputs, get a mix of how students interact. And this comes from Mark Prensky's idea that students learning on their own, autonomously, is to do with taking hold of a methodology that is based on inquiry-based learning, problem-based learning. It has many names, as you can see. And technology can really assist students learning in groups together, away from the teacher's guidance at times. I'm not saying all the time, but there is a certain amount of autonomous work in this way. Okay, I need to speed up, I think. Hope everybody's okay. So a blend might be a mixture of these 4 things that I've put on this slide. I don't think tradition is going to disappear. I don't think it should. I don't think teachers will disappear either. I don't think they ever will. I think the face-to-face contact, the human face is very, very important to students. And of course, you can see the traditional classroom in the top right. That's a photograph taken in Ukraine, by the way. Anybody from Ukraine? And if you look at the left, autonomy is something I'm going to look at in terms of an online way of doing some of the work that is often done in class. Of course, classrooms can be set up for collaboration. You can see a classroom below there where students are working around tables. It depends on where you teach. I'm just saying that you can decide on your own mixture of all of these things. And finally, connect and share. You can start Facebook closed groups for your class. You can get your students to post bits of homework up there and have discussions and so on. It's up to you, really. There are so many possibilities that your blend of learning is really down to where you teach, what your teaching context is, what your students are like. However, I would say that the autonomy aspect and the connect and share aspect is something that we really need to exploit as much as we can. Okay, so let's take a quick look. Sorry, I was just glancing at the text chat, but it's very distracting and I need to move on. So, what is My English Lab? Let's just explain that first of all. So, it's a website. It's a system that allows students to access it any time, but the teacher can manage the course content, and it has lots of features, online activities and so on, personalised learning, gradebook, communication tools. I'll show you some screenshots from Speak Out, My English Lab to Speak Out. Let's have a look. So, once you've signed in, you will arrive, and once you have selected your course, the course that you're using, then you will arrive on your course page, and we're going to click, and this is very, very simple, by the way, this website. It's designed to be extremely clear, not too crowded, so that it's very, very usable. I think our students will find it incredibly easy to use, but it's also supposed to be very simple for teachers who are not used to this kind of format. Anyway, let's click on Elementary Speak Out and see what we get. So as soon as you click on your coursebook, you will see the units laid out as they are here, and we're going to click on Unit 8 because we'd like to look at some exercises available for our class to do. And if you click on Unit 8, you will then see the 3 parts of the unit. And what you might notice below is the summary, by the way. This is a unit that students already started doing some work on. And the nice thing is the summary shows the student how much progression they've made, or how, I think the percentages are their grades rather than progress. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, it's a minor detail. So it's a question of simple clicking wherever you want to go. So let's click on the first blue bar at the top, Unit 8.1, and see what we get. Now this is the grammar section, and you can see below vocabulary, listening, writing. So there's a fair selection there of exercises that would normally be found in workbooks or in extra practice materials. A lot of mechanical grammar exercises are very important for building a skill, but can take up a lot of class time and possibly are probably, I would say, better done by the students somewhere else, i.e. at home or in a coffee shop or wherever they want. So as you can see, you click, and it's quite simple what you do. I'll show you a couple of slides illustrating some of the other features. So first of all, that's a typical exercise, a vocabulary exercise, and with digital exercise, of course, you do get a certain amount of movement in some of the things that you can do. Here it's a drag and drop. I think that's all fairly clear, and you've seen all this before. If you take a look at item 1, Kim's over there, he's chatting, then there's the blank. Can you just see before the box there's a little question mark? Something good for autonomy here is that learners can choose to click on a hint, a helpful hint. It's not the answer. It might direct them to a page in the course book to revise, or it might give some other information to guide them towards the answer. The student can choose if they want to do the exercise with or without hints, and you also have the option to disable the hints if you don't want them to get them in your settings. If you look at the bottom, the students don't have to finish this exercise in one go. It depends where they are and what time it is. They choose. basically, and if they want to do half the exercise and then go off and have a cup of coffee, then they can save, and you can see the save at the bottom. As soon as the students have finished the exercise, they're happy with their answers, they click submit, and then the exercise is done. They can always have another go later, but the marks and the grades will go to the teacher as well, and I'll show you that later, how the marks will go immediately to the gradebook. Okay, still with me? The student also gets instant feedback on the answers, and this is also stored as a report. So if the student wants to see how they did on an exercise, they'll get a report. They can see there that they got 7 out of 10. This is what they did. Actually, those errors probably look like typos. Sometimes students, when they're typing, will type very quickly. You're not always sure whether the error is typing or a true linguistic error. However, they can have another go. In other words, they can choose to try again until they get it right. It's up to them. That's an aspect of autonomy I quite like. Okay, now let's see what the teacher can do. So here, you can send the assignment to your class. You can decide, you select the assignment, and then you select students. You set the due date, and you can alter a few other things in other settings. With selecting students, mostly if you've got a homework assignment, you'll select all students. But occasionally you can single out students to send extra practice. Maybe they've not done so well, or they need a bit more help, and you can select individual students and say, well, have a try at this and see how you get on. This depends on what their grades are looking like, what their performance and accuracy looks like, and you can then decide to do what you like. Okay, very, very simple. Just click, click and click, and then press assign at the bottom. And this will arrive in the student page, and they will see that they've got a job to do. Here's the fabulous gradebook. I think that marking homework and checking practice exercises is probably best done outside the classroom. And how much time do you spend marking? It's one of my least favourite jobs as a teacher, I have to confess. But for these kind of exercises available online, the students submit their exercise and the mark is immediately available to you. And you can see here that the students' grades are fairly clear. You can assign letter grades if you want. You can set up the letter grades, by the way, to suit your marking system, so it's not fixed. But the nice thing is, at a quick glance, you can see the students who need more help, so the ones in red, the ones who are doing really well in green, and the others in sort of yellowish colour. So, again, you have something instantly marked for you. The nice thing is, of course, you can export the gradebook to an Excel spreadsheet, so you can print it off and use it for reports or showing to parents or bosses, whoever you happen to teach. Okay, so that's really super. That's one of the best things about it. Something else that teachers are really going to like is a common error report. So let's take one exercise that the class did. So how can you tell where the errors are and who needs more help? Well, you can have a look at each item in the exercise. You can see the error. You can see how many students made it and what their names are. So if you look at the second error, where 7 students have made mistakes, you might want to do something about this in class. I think it's probably a linguistic mistake and not a typo, because so many students did it. So beginning with double N, that's something you might need to take into class at the beginning of the lesson, just as a quick reflection on what you've seen from their homework. At the same time, if you look at the first one, where only 1 student's made a mistake, and one a bit further down, these are quite possibly typing errors. So you use this data to inform your teaching, to decide exactly what to do about remedial work in the following lesson. This is really valuable. It makes your teaching a lot more focused. And finally, there's an email facility. You can see it here. There's no need for personal emails in this system. It's a closed system where everybody is automatically on an email list that's sent within the system. So it's all private. There's no need to give your personal details to anyone. You can use the email for many things. A lot of teachers say that, yes, you can send messages to the class between lessons when you're not likely to see them, as you can see below. A lot of teachers have told me that they like to individually have conversations with students through email about their progress, or to encourage them if they're not confident, and so on. You know, you can use email, you can use it any way you like. So that's another nice facility. So my English Lab is about enriching learning, about informed teaching through the use of data, and it's a flexible thing for both teachers and students. In fact, you use it as much as you want to. If you want students to do stuff on paper, then you can get them to do stuff on paper. But I think it's going to be motivating if they're doing a lot of mechanical exercises, workbook-style exercises, that are incredibly important for skill building, but probably better done outside class. So my question, I'll come to the end fairly soon. My last section is about changing relationships. If you can take out marking homework, doing vocabulary tests, doing practice, fairly mechanical, markable practice exercises out of class, what happens next? And I think that teachers often say, well, it will free up some time. I'll be able to concentrate on strategies and do a lot more on processing the language, how to learn better. There's time for more skills development, and I would suggest that speaking and writing can get an awful lot more attention. Certainly you have more time for formative, informal formative assessment of speaking in class. You have a bit more space, a bit more time to really get at productive skills. I also think that reading and listening comprehension work should also be done online. I think students find it very hard to read at a similar speed with the rest of the class, and the same with listening. I think they're both really ideal for online formats. I like classrooms to be full of productive work where you can give lots of useful feedback and do a lot of strategy training. Obviously, you can set up a lot more project work. You can get students working on extended projects in groups. There's time to set up and support this kind of thing. And again, you may have more time for students to discuss the lesson, give you feedback, you give them feedback, and to reflect on how it went and what they need to do next. So I hope it gains you enough time to do some of those things some of the time. I think the relationship is going to change. As I said before, students don't need us anymore to be the walking encyclopedia who knows everything. We are much more a manager of students' learning through helping them with strategies, to guiding them towards what they need to do, to support them psychologically, to appraise them, to assess them in informal and formal ways. And I think that if we have technology in the classroom, the teacher then becomes an advocate for the tools the students use naturally. So working online, working with interactive whiteboards, any kind of digital resource, hardware or software, if you manage to introduce it into your classes in some way, the blend that you have for your blended learning is entirely up to you. Our students will become more motivated. That's more or less what I was going to say, actually. I'll just give you a few slides on information, just a second. So you've seen some screenshots from the online My English Lab for Speak Out. And these are other courses that have a My English Lab. You can see from the books on the slide, they're adult general English courses, they are academic, they are academic, business, and so on. So they're mostly within the higher education and adult section. But more stuff is coming. There's already 2 courses with a grammatical focus. My Grammar Lab is really worth looking at. The book is integrated with the online component, so the book directs the student to the online, and it can be worked on entirely independently if necessary. What else do we have? The first My English Lab for secondary is choices, but there'll be more to come. as we go on. And if you want to find out more, yes, Fazia just said, My Grammar Lab comes, let me go back. My Grammar Lab comes with a book, with an online website, and a download. You can download an app for your phone, so it's in 3 modes. That really is handy. I think students might like that. Okay, so secondary, and there's the website for my English Lab if you want to have a look. And Sarah's been playing with my Grammar Lab. Good. Okay. So there's the website if you want to make a note of it. And Fauzi is leaving you all kinds of messages on the way. Sorry, I haven't really managed to look at the text chat. And that's it. And if you would like to get in touch with me, there's my email address. I'd be really happy to have conversations with you by email and tell me anything you want about what you do, where you teach, or any questions you have about the presentation. So thanks very much, everyone. Fazia, are you there? Fazia, has she deserted us?
Hello, hi.
Oh, hi.
Thank you. I'm using an old-fashioned laptop with the different kind of inbuilt mouse, so it's not as easy as using the kind of mouse that you have on the side of your computer.
Yeah. Okay.
That was fantastic. Thank you very much for that session, and thank you so much, everyone, for your comments and questions.
Were there any questions arising from the text chat?
I've been going through and answering as many as I could as we went along, but if anybody has got any questions we didn't answer, please do, if you don't mind, write them again in the text chat box, because there's a lot of text chat that happened this evening.
Okay.
Which is great, but we don't want to have missed any. Oh, there's one
Elizabeth was asking about whether they can get the slides.
Right, well, we don't often make the slides available for download, unfortunately. We can't actually do that, but we do record these presentations. So if you want to watch this again, we will be publishing it on the My English Lab website, and I'll post that in the text chat in a bit, and that will be in the next couple of weeks. So do look out for that and do watch it again. Share it with your friends, anyone who might have missed it.
Okay. Anybody have any questions now? Instead of us going back on the text chat, if you had any questions, could you type them in now? Certificates will also be available. Fazia will tell you about that.
Yes, that's right. We will be sending certificates out within the next couple of weeks again, once we've processed them. Sorry about the little typing error in my last little text message here. It's supposed to say we have a My English Lab app, not My English Lab app. It sounds like a Canadian lager. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Sarah, let's see, you asked if I got your response. Sorry, I'm just going to go back very quickly.
Nice responses from everyone. It was amazing. We had Terry from New Zealand, we had people from Argentina, loads from Poland. Absolutely fantastic. Somebody's just made a comment about, lost it, about competencies. Blended learning techniques will be able to address the levels of competencies. Timothy, that's probably about mixed ability. Are you talking about mixed ability within the classroom? I think allowing students to work autonomously allows them to work at their own pace. And classrooms very often don't allow that. So I think, yes, that definitely it will really help students with differing abilities within the class. Nice comments, guys. Thank you.
Sorry if you can hear the noise of the text chat.
Katita, you want to get the new alphabet? You know the slide I showed you. You know what I did? I just Googled it on Google Images. So if you were to look, put in a search string for digital alphabet or something like that, you may find it yourself. If you can't find it, email me and I'll send it to you.
Okay, just seeing if there's any more questions in the text chat box. There don't seem to be, but it's fantastic about the comments. Oh, there's one here about blended learning with mixed ability classes. Judy, I'll leave that to you to answer. You're an expert on that.
I'm supposed to be. I think I just answered it actually. Mixed ability means that all classes are mixed ability for a start. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of it today, but very quickly, blended learning, the autonomous element or the connection share element or the collaboration element is ideal for mixed ability, where students can work more at their own pace, they feel less threatened, and they're much more encouraged to contribute to group work. So the blend is up to you. The online stuff we're looking at today is definitely going to help mixed ability students. If they do a lot of practice exercises outside class, I think they can make better progress without the pressure of being in class with everyone else. You can, of course, individually send exercises to individual learners. So you can target learners by assigning to individuals. There are lots of ways it can work well. That was Mervat, was it? Yeah.
I've just posted something up there about the ELT community, and there's been some fantastic conversation going on in the text chat, and it would be great to hear all of your fantastic comments and ideas, and take the conversation further. At www.eltcommunity.com, which is the Pearson community for teachers, authors, trainers, all the language experts for English language teaching out there. There are some great forums to discuss questions like these, and it's for teachers like yourselves, and trainers, and authors, and pretty much anyone who's interested in teaching of English as a foreign language. So to join the community and continue the discussion.
Yeah. Something I noticed from Graciela. Hi Graciela, you were there before, I think, earlier on. Nice to see you again. Standardized testing should also change, right? I'm not quite sure what you mean, but of course online testing is something that I used all the time when I was a university teacher, but it needs to be supervised. You can't really have students doing that autonomously if you want the test results to mean something. So again, under formal testing conditions, you can have online standard tests. The content of tests really can be anything you like. Not quite sure if I've answered your question. Agnieszka, underneath, you want to get in touch with Fazia. Fazia, did you post your email address?
That's right, I did, and I'm going to just send it again here for anybody else who has questions about the availability of My English Lab, or any technical questions about the format or the platform.
Maria Gildeta, blended learning and one-to-one interactions. If you teach one-to-one, then I don't think there's an awful lot of difference on how you choose your blended learning. I think that one-to-one teaching is highly intensive. Personally, I believe it's best, the time you spend with your student is best spent with productive skills, writing and speaking. And of course, if you've got an online course, that student can be doing a huge amount of work in between the times you see one another. I think, the decisions you make about the blend you adopt doesn't really make any difference if you teach one-to-one or a larger class. I'm not sure whether everyone agrees, but again, you choose. Okay, there's some more things I'm just checking. Right, there's both my email and Fozia's there. And somebody found the alphabet, thank you.
Fantastic. A question from David here, David Reynolds. Do you have something similar for elementary students? David, I'm assuming you mean elementary as in primary school, or are you talking about earlier than that? At the moment, we have courses for secondary with My English Lab. Coming up very soon, we are going to have courses for other learners as well, so for younger learners too. So,
sorry, Fozia, can I just mention that our Discovery Island has an online game? So
that's right.
a really, really nice interactive learning game based on the Pop Tropica website. That's our Discovery Island. That's primary, that's the only primary resource at the moment. But it will all start coming quickly. Timothy, you're working on a project regarding blended learning. You'll be in touch. Please do, that'd be great. Look forward to hearing from you.
Carla, you've questioned about the next webinar. We have a whole range of webinars happening very soon. We've got in February, we've got webinars by Jeremy Harmer. We've got some sessions by Rob Dean and by lots of grammar experts for the Isle of Grammar Day, which is happening on Valentine's Day. So do look at the Great Teachers Treasury site or pearsonelt.com and you'll find information for those. It is very romantic, isn't it? We all love grammar.
I love grammar.
There'll be a presentation of my grammar lab then as well, with some very practical sessions there too. Gregor, can students record their answers and teachers listen to it? I was talking about my English class. Not all of the courses have that functionality. Courses like Top Notch, second edition, there are some other courses, I believe North Star has that, but not all of them do. They vary depending on the skills that that course particularly is focusing on.
Yeah. Merifat, you say, do you think that blended learning will replace the traditional one very soon? I think it's already beginning to be used. I think blended learning is what's happening most of the time. Of some kind, I mean the blend is different.
It's true, and it's interesting. I've been hearing of other teachers who have been using nothing but iPads in their class, and that to me seems it's so far ahead in the future, but it's also where the students are at right now. So I think it's quite an exciting time. We've got all these different blends of in between the classroom with the digital, the pure classroom, the pure digital, and then the combination in between, really.
Absolutely. Definitely. So I'm still scrolling through the chat to see if I've missed anything.
Do feel free to continue to write in the text. Even if we don't get to it today, we have got people's email addresses, obviously, because we invited you to the session and you registered. We'll get back to you, or someone from your regional office will get back to you with the answer. And there will be certificates for the sessions. We will send them within the next couple of weeks to the participants.
Okay. Well, there were nearly 200 of us today, and it was wonderful to meet you all. Please stay in touch. Let me know how you're doing. I'm going to.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to say goodbye. Okay.
It was great.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.